Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of My True Crime Obsession. This is my host, Christine. I'm your host, Christine Dana. I'm here, joined by Nick Greystone, familiar face. Nick and I have been in court with Rex Heuermann multiple times, and we also have Nick's friend here, Jasmine.
Hi.
Yes.
We have to stop meeting like this, Christine.
I know.
They're going to start
I know.
talking.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy. I don't know about you. Well, for those of you that don't know, but it's all over the local news and I'm sure the national news as well. Today, Wednesday, June 17th, 2026, Rex was back in court today for his official sentencing by Judge Timothy Mazzei. And not only was it sentencing day, but was an opportunity for the victims' family members to come to court and to give their victim impact statements and speak directly to their relative's killer. So I don't know about you, Nick. I mean, I got there at 5:30 in the morning, and I was about I think the eighth person online, and it was pretty early, but, we waited online for, well over 3 hours to get into court, and then just sitting in court, it was just a completely emotional day, and I don't know about you, I feel totally drained, just emotionally, physically. I'm just barely keeping my eyes open at this point right now. How about you? Your thoughts and feelings?
It's, I was looking at the date, and it's even aside from taking all this time to finally get justice for these victims, just from him getting arrested, it's almost been 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a long road,
Yeah.
And it is a lot of emotions. And you know what? Like, as far as us feeling the way that we do, we're relatively outsiders to this. Can you imagine if this was a loved one?
Yes.
What's been going on with them?
Yes.
If we're feeling the way that we do, I
Yes.
can only imagine being in their shoes for one day, let alone 20, 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
just,
I agree.
it is so
And
emotional.
And think about it, they didn't even have a trial. I mean, and
No.
it took 3 years to get to this point. But for some of these families, you strike a chord. You definitely hit on a good point. Some of these families have been waiting for over 30 years. If you think about the case of Sandra Castelia, who went missing in November of 1993, and her body and her remains were found shortly thereafter. I mean, you're talking 33 years ago. 33 years some of these families have been waiting for justice. They have been waiting for their day in court, and today was it. And Jasmine, you also joined us in court today. How did you feel? You want to share any thoughts or feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't inside, but certainly the energy from inside was transferred outside. So as the media was gathering, people were speaking, and it was just very, there was a feeling of unity outside, just people really, really feeling for the families of the victims. It was just really tough, to process.
Yes.
But, I wasn't there from the morning, but, more power to you for being there that early. It's draining.
Raul gets
draining.
the prize. He was there, at 3?
That's what I
Got
heard.
there at 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
Shout out to Raul
Yes,
Montero.
Montero.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like a liaison to the victims' families. He has done so much work. I can't say enough positive things about Raul. I mean, he really
No, he really is a good guy.
The families trust him, and that's an issue I'd like to talk about today is the lack of trust that these families have because of the media and what the media has done to them. But Raul has been a rock for these families and has been there from the beginning and has always advocated for them. And
he's helped me out.
Yes.
He's helping me out with the documentary I'm doing right now on
Yes.
Robert Schulman. He
Yes.
sent me all of his notes,
Good.
and they're very meticulous. They're very detailed, and that's
Raul's
huge.
no joke.
He's a good guy.
He does the work, and for those of you that may not know, I mean, talk about selfless. This is a man who has created a map of the United States of missing people across the United States, people who have been murdered, and he works with CODIS, and he works with NamUs. And he actually, as those people are identified, he puts it on the map, and the FBI uses his map. I mean, it's an amazing tool that he has, and what he's created is just monumental. And but he really, he just has so much sympathy and empathy for these families, and really truly cares. And he's been there since the beginning.
It's crazy too. Like
Yes.
he doesn't want center stage.
That's right. That's
He's a
right.
shadow.
Yeah, because
Selfless.
it's not about he's
He
selfless.
really
He
is.
truly is. It's not about him. It's about the victims. And he's always kept the attention on the victims and on their families, which is what is so important.
Like when I met him
Yeah.
last time, he it was just there, and he was just like, "Hey, man, I just wanted to introduce myself," and he said his name, and I was just like,
Yes.
"Whoa!"
Yes.
Like I was like, "Dude, I
Yes.
really appreciate your work."
Yeah, he's just amazing. And there were so many people there today. It's, we've been going to court so often over the last 3 years. You start to form bonds and relationships with these people, and I can start naming names. I mean, Alexis Linkletter does Unraveled, a podcast on this, and she was there today. Joe Giacalone, he also has a podcast, and he was there today. Josh Zeman has done a documentary on this case, so everyone who's been there from the beginning was there again today to kind of see the finale, so to speak. And
And the
so
people that you're
yes.
talking about are coming from a good place. Like one of the victims' families is, they're calling out Peacock and how they're
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
raking in the big bucks.
I want to get into that. Yeah.
Right.
So we got there today, and I got there around 5:30. I think you got there shortly
That's
after. Yes.
about 7.
Yes. Yeah. And lines started forming, and obviously the media was out in full force. But so we waited online, and as we kind of figured, we were put in the overflow room. So between and I'm okay with that, because honestly, my feeling is I don't feel that I should be in that courtroom. I think that courtroom should be strictly for the media. Pardon me. Let me go back. Strictly for the family members and those that worked on this case. And obviously the media is also in that courtroom as well. But, I wouldn't feel right being in that courtroom.
No.
I
we
was
were
glad
good
to be
where
in
we
the
were.
overflow. Yes.
I was
yeah.
fine with not being there early,
Yeah, but so people were asking, is it going to be televised? And my understanding was, we went into the overflow room. Judge Mazzy, came on to speak, and he said, Newsday. He kind of laid the ground rules, like Newsday and News 12 will be there, will be allowed to video record. Every family member has the right to agree to be recorded. If they don't wish to be recorded, they will not. No close-ups, no flashes, no sideboard recordings. And every family agreed. Every family that was making a victim impact statement agreed to be recorded, which speaks volumes. Like, they wanted this documented. They wanted their day in court. They wanted to be heard, and they wanted it,
As they should.
recorded. Yes, yeah.
It's about them today.
Yep. And so I was just, I took a lot of notes, and I'm going to be looking at my notes both on my phone and here on my notebook, because obviously you're not allowed to use your phone in court. But I believe there were a total of 14 family members that came out today. There were more family members sitting in court, but 14 family members chose to give victim impact statements. So you had Valerie Mack, you had her parents, Edwin and Joanne Mack, speak. Valerie's sister, Danielle Mack, spoke. Benjamin, he goes by the name of Aaron, Benjamin Aaron Torres, Valerie's son, spoke. For the family of Jessica Taylor, she had 2 cousins speak, one of which was Jasmine Robinson. Unfortunately, I did not get the other cousin's name.
Right.
Yes. Melissa Brainerd Barnes, Missy Can, her sister, spoke. Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, Maureen's daughter, spoke. And Dylan Haggett, Maureen's son, spoke. For the family of Melissa Bartholomew, Amanda Funderburg, sister, spoke, gave a very powerful speech, and we'll get into the details of that. Megan Waterman, family of Megan Waterman, it was Elizabeth Meserve, Megan's aunt, that spoke, and her daughter Liliana Waterman spoke. For Amber Lynn Costello, she was also represented in court today by her sister, who had given a statement that was read aloud in court, and for Sandra Castilla, her sister Ruth Catherine Ramos had given a statement that was read in court. For the family of Karen Vergata, they were sitting in court, but they chose not to speak, but they were present and they were there representing their loved one. So, let's get into it. Let's get into, the victim impact statements, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious as to what was said and, who spoke and who said what. I think one of the takeaways I take from this is just that obviously everyone spoke about the heartache and the loss and the magnitude of that was felt in the court. I know I went through tissues and I was crying, but a lot of them came from it from different perspectives. I mean, yes, they spoke about the loss of their loved one, but
They
some of
painted
them,
a picture.
yeah, but some of them came to it from a religious aspect. Some of them came to it from the aspect of what a coward he was. And one of the things I hope to reiterate today is let's talk about the victims. Yes, they were sex workers, but I think what was so important today was how these victims' family members talked about that does not define our loved one. Please stop using that term. Please stop referring to them as sex workers. And I think today they got their identities back, that these were women. These were
Absolutely.
women who came from loving families, and their lives encompassed so much more than what they did for as an occupation. And they really blasted the media, and I'm glad they did. They blasted the media for the way the media portrayed these women, and they blasted, the old Suffolk County Police Department before the task force came in, before Ray Tierney came in, for how they did not act upon information that they were given to solve this case, prior to the task force coming in. This case, in my opinion, could have been solved in 2009, but because of who the victims were, it was almost as if,
No one gave a shit.
their life had less value, which we need to change the narrative.
I think
Their life does not have less value.
No, it
Yeah.
sucks. You're looking at these girls. Look, they didn't have the perfect life. Everyone is not perfect in this world. They had obstacles in their life. Whatever they got into that deterred them to have a normalcy.
Yes.
It doesn't take away the fact that they're human beings and they were loved at one point of their lives.
Yeah, they were loved
they could have
throughout their
been
whole
loved.
life.
They weren't loved. If they weren't loved or they were shunned by people, it doesn't matter. Like they're still human.
Yes.
And it's it was difficult to hear about some of the upbringing, like back in the day. Like,
Yes.
oh yeah, we used to hang out. We were '90s kids. These,
Yeah.
it was a good time for them, and then
Yes.
for them to go out the way that they did, and then just be labeled,
Yes.
a
Yes.
sex worker. That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, it's
the
the
way it
label.
should be.
That's how they were labeled in the news, the media. I mean, that's the damaging part. People would change their channel. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't give it a second look.
I don't have to worry about it.
Disgusting.
I don't do that, so I don't have to worry that there's a guy that's preying on these poor defenseless girls. And
And sadly, they are, girls, women that work in that line of that occupation. They are targeted. They are vulnerable. They are our most vulnerable. And before I get into the actual, victim impact statements, one of the things I want to mention there is there was representation today outside the court on the courthouse steps. There are a group of women who do work in this occupation, and they wear red, and they have red umbrellas, and they were there today and in full force, standing with messages of love and talking about, that we will not be undermined and that, that we are not victims. And do you want to speak to that at all?
they didn't like me.
No?
No.
Oh, you're kidding.
I tried to talk to them and tell them the place that I was coming from because I asked to take a picture, and they kind of flipped it on me and thought that I was there for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
And I get it. You're there, you're representing, and you're coming from a good place. You don't know who I am.
Sure.
Sure,
No, I
you're
know.
judging a book
I
by
know.
its cover because I don't have that,
Yes.
cleaned up persona or the way that I carry myself. So yeah, maybe I wouldn't trust me if I was in their shoes, because this is, at the end of the day, this is a case about a guy that preyed upon their occupation.
Yes.
They're there to represent that, and maybe they saw me as a threat. But
Yeah, some of the signs, just want to go through some of the signs they were carrying. So some of the signs that they were holding, one was stop mythologizing men who kill sex workers. I mean, that was just one photo. I just want to go through this, and I apologize, so please
they
bear
said
with
some
me.
of them are your husband, your sons, your
Sex workers are
uncles.
not a social ill. Violent men are, and that was the message that they were trying to drive home. And, I understand. And I like the fact that they are banding together and they're trying to change, the narrative. It has always been your fathers, your husbands, your brothers,
Here you go.
your
See,
sons.
I got 'em
yes.
all in one.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go.
Some people may not necessarily agree with the message. Yeah. But you know what? It's there's something to be said about that.
I mean,
that
look at
there's
the reality.
representation
It's
there.
a tough
Yes.
pill to swallow, but
Thank
we
you.
have to come to realization.
Yes. And hopefully this can change the narrative. And, they're obviously, with, Jeffrey Epstein, that's been big in the news. I mean, there is sex trafficking that goes on in this country. You can't turn a blind eye to that.
Hollywood
Yeah.
too. Hollywood is very secretive with stuff. There's
Yes.
so many
So
cases that come that some of these guys that we idolize and look up to on TV are really not wholesome as they are.
yes. So,
And there's not even a reason to name them because they know who
but
they
I'm
are.
glad that they were there today, and I'm glad that they were representing.
Yeah.
So the first people to speak today were Valerie Mack's family, Edwin and Joanne Mack. And I'm not going to read, I don't have their victim impact statement. So what I'm going to do is just basically summarize the major points that, that were said today in court. Valerie Mack's father, Edwin, said, he quoted C.S. Lewis and said, "There are no ordinary people in this world." He said that his daughter Valerie is standing by Jesus' side. Jesus will be, she will be at Jesus' side. And, what you have done to our family is beyond what words can express. But they did get a little religious. And one of the things also I want to drive home is the power and the control. They really attacked Rex Human for, you think you had the power, you think you had the control. You did not have the power, you did not have the control. You may have killed her, but you can never touch her soul. And Valerie is the one that is free today, living with our Savior, Jesus Christ. And I thought that was very touching. And,
Sure.
Yes.
And they weren't, they're her parents, so I mean, obviously they're up in age, and this has been with them for so long.
And, her mother talked about the goals that she had that she will never be able to attain, and how Rex Human, had robbed, Valerie's son of a mother's love. So, unless you're made of stone, there was just not a dry eye in that courtroom today when these families spoke.
No.
Yes.
I teared up at some points.
Yeah.
Still
How
have a
could you
lump in my
not?
throat. It's like
Yeah.
Sucks.
to
Yeah.
see them like that.
Yeah. And then Valerie's sister took over and to address the court and said she will not address him. He does not deserve my attention. Talked about how wonderful all these girls were and how, whatever Rex Human, whatever his goal was to destroy these women, he lit a fire in these families.
It sure did.
Yes. Benjamin Aaron Torres, Valerie Mack's son, spoke about how this man created a web of destruction, and he left it with, he looked at Rex Human and he said, "You will reap what you sow."
Sure will.
Jessica Taylor had two cousins that got up and spoke. One was Jasmine Robinson, and you spoke about that. Like, Jasmine really spoke about the good times that she shared with her cousin
But
Jessica.
she intertwined it with some horrific details of
Yes,
like
yes.
how they found her.
I know. I mean, when Jasmine got up and spoke, I mean, she talked about how she was alerted to the fact that she lost her loved one, and that, you know, she was called by authorities, and that they had found body parts, here and body parts there, and
Now you're
that,
thinking of like he was just throwing them away like a piece of meat, you know, and it's
you
just
know.
like that was the first gut punch for
Yes,
me. I mean,
that
not
was
to
very
take
hard.
away from the first victim's family or whatever, but this one was just like, okay, she's out swinging right now, and
yeah.
it started right there for me. I was just like,
and
whoa.
that, you know, how they found her loved one. That, I hate to get graphic, but unfortunately I have to say it, that they found her, but she was headless and she was handless. And if you
She kept
remember,
on repeating that.
yeah, well, if you remember the manifesto, you know, they talked about the manifesto, his manifesto about cutting off the hands so that you couldn't identify her. And one of the things I do want to point out also is that today is Jessica Taylor's birthday. She would have been 43 years old today.
And if that's not a sign.
Yes, I know. So so today, she, you know what, for her birthday, she
She got a good one.
yes, she finally got the justice that she so very much deserves. You know, I just want to go through this.
Was that the one? Was this the family member? Because now I'm getting them,
Mm-hmm.
two of them mixed up. Is this the one that told him that he did not do his job right?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
She
one.
totally insulted him. I don't know if it was Jasmine or if it was Jessica Taylor's other cousin said, "Oh, you had a planning document. Well, you screwed that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know,
You couldn't
you didn't
even-
do this right.
Right.
You couldn't even do that right. You know." I just love how they addressed him in court. You know.
Oh, so they slapped him.
Yes, absolutely.
It was
you
great.
know.
You know, a
So,
narcissist is taking that 10 times as hard
Yes.
as anyone else would.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
much
your
as-
planning
yeah.
document, you screwed it up piece by piece. Oh, the DNA? Yeah, you must have forgot about that because you left DNA. You know,
I hope
I mean,
pizza
Super
haunts
smart.
you
Yes.
for the rest of
Uh-huh.
your life.
Yeah.
They
every
said
time you
that.
eat pizza, I hope it
Yeah.
reminds you. Yes.
And then they said about the, well, you know what? They still identified her because you screwed up
Yeah.
taking the tattoo off. of
Yes,
her.
and
Yeah.
one of her cousins said, "You are a weak, disgusting coward. You tried to fit in your whole life, and you couldn't. And you couldn't even have full control, and you don't have full control now." I mean, they just really hit it home, and it was very powerful being in that courtroom. As emotional as it was, I'm sitting there cheering, and I'm like, yes, yes.
Keep going.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a lot of emotion coming out, and
It
you can
was.
hear it. You know, as
Yes.
much as that power was coming out, you could hear the pain behind it. You know.
Maureen's sister, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, Melissa, she goes by the name of Missy Can, got up and spoke next. And, you know, one of the things that I think people don't realize is that these family members are victims too, because Rex not only took away their loved one and destroyed their lives, destroyed their family member's life, but he destroyed their lives as well.
Sure.
The you know, Missy really spoke about the guilt that she had, that she could have done something better. She could have, you know, and that
She said maybe if I was there more for her,
Exactly.
like, she wouldn't be in this place. Like to live with that.
yeah,
That's-
she
ugh.
called it survivor's guilt. What if? That question weighed so heavily on her, and she carried that guilt around for years, and she had to convince herself that it wasn't her fault. And many of these family members have had to go for therapy, and not only that, they have these fears, these I don't want to call them irrational fears because they're rational considering what they had to go through.
Absolutely.
That
If
that
a
they're
movie
afraid
scares you,
yeah,
and that's fake. You're talking about a monster that took away your loved one, and that's real.
this man instilled
shut
all
that
those
movie off.
fears. They're afraid to go out in public. They
would.
don't know who to trust.
Of course.
They obviously couldn't trust the old police department because they tried to get answers, and it fell on deaf ears.
They
Until
really shit the
yeah.
bed. You
Oh,
know?
my God.
And you think about it, like just touching on it. I don't want to take away. You know, I want you to continue with the that, but think about the blood that's on their hands if they had stopped this in 2009.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, he got arrested 2023. You're talking about 14 more years that
Yes.
this piece of shit was on the street.
I know.
He could have
I know.
he definitely
way sooner.
There's more.
I was saying
Yeah.
that the whole time and outside, to the ladies in red, we were talking a little bit, and I don't know their names, but I was expressing to them how, like, the ball was dropped. This day should have happened way long ago. Wish it never would happen. Wish none of this ever would happen, but I wish the turnaround time was a lot faster. Could have been.
And you know what? You know why it was like that? Because we had some piece of shit as a chief of police that was covering up his own ass.
Yeah.
That turned them away and said, "Nah, we got it. You don't got shit." And he ended up turning up to be more of a piece of shit because he got arrested doing the same shit that he was doing back then. And God knows what else kind of skeletons are in that. But that's a whole nother thing. We don't even need to shine a light on that piece of shit.
No, I don't want to give him any
That
attention.
was a wrench for sure, though, thrown in.
But she did turn around, Maureen's sister Missy, and said, this burden belongs to Rex, and I hope she talked directly to him. I hope you can feel the weight of what I've carried, the guilt that I have carried. And it just, she really, really, her words were just so heartfelt. And
But think about, like, one of them said also the weight she felt lighter today because this was lifted off of her. I felt it, so I can't imagine what they felt. You know what I mean? Like, you're carrying that around for so long, and you finally get to,
The guilt's gone.
And one of the other points she touched upon, like her last words, she said to her sister was, "I love you and I'll see you tomorrow," but tomorrow never came. And her brother died a year before
they found her,
before she was discovered, and her brother never knew it. I have to hope and pray that her brother is up in heaven with her, and that that they're both at peace. But yeah, the way he destroyed their trust in the world. These are things that these family members are going to have to live with for the rest of their lives. They'll never be the same.
No.
So yeah. The next one to speak, just taking a look here, was Nicolette Brainerd Barnes, and she is, Maureen's daughter, and she just talked. She lost her mother, I believe, when she was about 7 years old, and she's just talked about how she's suffered from PTSD and paranoia, anxiety, and she's been in therapy, and talked about her first Christmas without her mother and how empty she felt. And
she talking about moving around too a lot.
Yes. That was different victims.
Okay.
Yeah, but she talked about how people talk about how she was so much like her mother, and She something that hit home with me is she said, "I am shaped as much by my mother's absence as I was by her presence." She was kind enough, though, to thank the Suffolk County Police Department and how they gave her family moments of humanity, gave her family respect. We were not just a headline. These women are not just names on a list. So, and that really kind of hit home.
Oh,
So,
you know what?
Yes.
They weren't all bad because when Rodney Harrison came out,
Sure.
he's the one that really like.
Well, I'm talking about the new police force,
Yeah.
the new task force.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but she left him with, "Your capacity for hate shows that you have no ability to love." And I don't know if that got to him. I highly doubt it, but it certainly weighed heavily with me.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's
yes.
that's a hell of a thing to hear if you're human. I think
So-
that part of him has been gone. I don't think he ever had it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I mean, and for those that don't know, we were there in court today. All these family members are getting up and giving these heartfelt statements and just getting emotional, and nothing from him. His face was just no
Blank.
emotion whatsoever.
It was
So,
blank.
yeah.
It was just a canvas. He was
Yes.
just sitting there.
He truly has compartmentalized his life. If his family was in there, you would see emotion. I think that's all, separate.
And they chose
Yeah,
not
and
to
I
be
think,
there.
and you know
Yeah.
what? I want to talk about that. Yeah, he may have shown emotion, but was it emotion for what he did? Or was it emotion because his family is there and he's embarrassed about
Yeah.
what his behavior?
He should be
Yes.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the only ones
They
that
should have
can
made
get
him
through to
stand there nude.
Ugh.
You know? Not that I want to see it, but you know what? Put this guy in an uncomfortable position for a little bit, you know? Like, just let him be picked apart like he picked apart these victims, you know? And it's just, yeah, he could have been embarrassed for it, but you know what? He don't give a shit about anybody. Doesn't, you know?
So Dylan Haggett, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' son, was the next to speak, and he was only a year old when Maureen went missing, and so I'm sure he has no real memories of his mother, but he did talk about the anxiety, the fear, the sadness, never having known his mother, and the fact that his mother was not there for him. Things that, mothers get to see, send their child, to school on the first day of school. He never got that. When he graduated high school, his mother wasn't there for that. These are things that, life events that, he did not get to share with his mother because Rex robbed him of that. And so, that was the message he sent to Rex Heuermann, and so powerful. So, the next to speak was the sister of Melissa Bartholomew, Amanda Funderburg. Now, every victim impact statement today was so emotional, so powerful, but the one that Amanda gave really stood out in my mind. I mean, this woman has such fortitude. I have such admiration for her.
She mic dropped hard a couple of
Yes.
times,
So, for those of you, I'll just fill you in that Amanda Funderburg is the sister of Melissa Bartholomew, and she was 9 years older. No, Melissa was 9 years older than Amanda. And, she talked about her sister, how her sister was her protector, her friend, how her sister was a fighter and wanted to open up her own hair salon, how, she was strong-willed, she was determined. Times she could be stubborn, even conceited. Yes, she had her faults, but she was a good person. And their last holiday together was at Christmas. And as she's sitting there speaking, she turns and looks directly at Rex Heuermann and says, "Look at me when I speak to you. Look at me when I am talking. It's been 17 years since we spoke." For those of you not familiar with the case, after Melissa had gone and disappeared, Rex Heuermann took her phone and called Amanda on the phone and tortured her, basically, on the phone with these phone calls, these harassing, torturing phone calls. So I love that she got up there and said, "Look at me when I'm talking to you. We spoke 17 years ago. You can look at me."
You're talking about a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, yes. And I don't want to get too much into the details. I know you probably want to say it. I don't feel right saying it, but she released some of the details of the conversation that Rex Heuermann, the words that Rex Heuermann said to her when she called her within days of her sister disappearing. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version because it's very...
You want me to say it?
It's very disgusting. It's very obscene. But basically, he went into details about what he did to her sister and how he killed her sister and let her rot, and that he used a derogatory term to describe her sister. And it just... the shock value of that, listening to that in court, it was just, I was taken back. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I understand. This is her truth, and this is what she needs to say in court, and this is what she needs to get off her chest, and this is what she needs the public to know. What a piece of garbage Rex Heuermann truly is. I mean, if you'd like to say it, I can't, I don't feel it's appropriate for me to say it. I don't want to say it, but you can say it.
So, basically, after she said, "Look at me," she said it's been 17 years since we last spoke, and this is just verbatim. She was like, "You told me that you
Yeah, I don't know.
I raped your sister in the ass. you should see the look on her face as I raped her in the ass. I let her rot, and your sister is a whore. You're talking about a 15-year-old
Imagine
girl, a child, and this piece of shit's a father that had a daughter about the same age. And that, to me, is not a fucking human being. That you don't have any ounce of humanity in you to make that phone call to anybody. First of all, you took a life. You killed her. You raped her. That takes a whole different type of piece of shit. But then you brought it to another level of contacting her loved one and torturing, continuous torturing. If that's not a sadist or
Yes.
like, you know, some type
Sexual
of
sadist. Yeah.
unbelievable amount of disgust, you know, that this girl probably felt, the fear, because he said that, you know, maybe one day I'll show you.
Oh, yes. So I want to get into that. Yeah. She said, don't even bother saying I'm sorry. No one is interested. She said, I hope you suffer the way you made my sister suffer. You know, a lot of people here talk about heaven. You talk about heaven. Don't even bother. Don't even think about going to heaven. You're not going to heaven. And save me a spot in hell because I will see you there. And I loved it.
So
She
powerful.
just, it was so powerful. I was like, yes, that's it, you know?
That's like the end of like some kind of like Clint Eastwood Rambo movie or whatever. Like the villain, you say that to the villain.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna find
Blows
you
up.
wherever
Save
you
me
go.
a seat
I'm
in hell.
finding
I
you.
will
Right.
see you there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was something. Like that
Yes.
girl, for her to do that,
Yes.
Courageous.
very,
Seriously.
very courageous.
Yes. I love that she turned the power around and she
She
took
did.
the power.
And
Yeah.
she,
And she
at that
basically
point,
said,
she
"F
said,
you."
you know, she said that that was the turning point where you became the hunted and
That's
I
right.
became the hunter.
Dominated him in that
Because she
courtroom.
dedicated
Absolutely.
her life.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't for all these people not giving up and carrying the love and the fire that they said about their loved ones, this dude would have continued to do what he was doing. But you know what? They were the monkey in the wrench. They were constantly poking. Hey,
Yes.
what's going on? What's
Yeah.
going on? Showing up. And they did.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The last ones to speak today were the family of Megan Waterman. So her aunt, Elizabeth Meserve, had got up and spoke, and she went into details about how Megan was sex trafficked by her pimp, and you know, obviously that her niece was much more than a victim, a number, a headline. She looked directly at Rex and called him a cowardly opportunist. What I found very interesting about Elizabeth Meserve's victim impact statement, and I really applaud her for this. She would not say the name Rex Human. She constantly referred to him as the prisoner. Okay, she would not say his name in court, and I admire her for that.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, give it a name.
Yes. She talked about how, you know, he robbed, you know, her daughter, Liliana, of life opportunities that Megan will never get to, you know, never got to see her daughter go for the first day of school. That someday Liliana will get married. She will pick out her wedding dress, and her mother will not be there on her wedding day. So these are things that really just kind of hit home. And one of the things that Elizabeth Meserve really touched upon and was really drove it home was talking about, you know, she talked about how everyone was re-victimized by the media, marginalized. She talked about Spoda and Burke. Did not even bother to look at the evidence. But what I found that I really liked was she got into Rex Human's divorce and how his divorce is just kind of like, you know, not
play.
It's a play, absolutely. It's just, you know, it's so transparent what he's trying to do, and that was divulge assets. She talked about how Rex Human's family, his ex-wife, his daughter, his stepson, are making millions off of this Peacock documentary and how this needs to stop, profiting from the monstrosity, the acts that he committed, and that they are profiting. And the victims' families aren't seeing a penny of that. Yeah, he tortures, he kills, and his family gets rich off of his crimes. She talked about the sale of memorabilia. She talked about how there are loopholes in the Son of Sam laws. And she really got into a bill that is now currently in New York State government, Bill 86730, where we need to close the loopholes and prevent victims, family members from profiting off of victims and loved ones, ensuring that criminals and those close to them do not get financial gain through murder. So she also touched upon Asia Male Doe, Shannon Gilbert, and how they also need to be remembered. And
If it wasn't for Shannon,
Yes.
all this
Yeah.
That's
wouldn't
right.
have started.
That's right. So, and she talked about how love is the most powerful force in the world and how he doesn't have any sense of love. And she ended it with, "Be gone, cowardly demon." I don't know if you remember when she
Yeah.
said that. Yeah, I thought that was very
Yeah.
good. But yeah, I you know what? For anyone that's unfamiliar, please look up Bill 86730. Get familiar with it, all right? When the Son of Sam laws were passed many, many years ago, obviously we didn't have the internet. We didn't have what we have today. We didn't have murderabilia. There are a lot of loopholes, and it's important that there's a grassroots active group right now that is really trying to close these loopholes and get this legislation passed so that
They should.
people don't profit off
No.
of this.
You know who talked a lot about this? Has nothing to do with this case, but Eileen Warnos.
Yes.
Her story was even sold before she wasn't even sentenced to her first death sentence. And they were making money because it was the first female serial killer, and they were like constant, there was so many people with their hands out and stuff.
Yes. Yes. And then one of the last speakers was Megan Waterman's daughter, Liliana. She was 3 years old when her mom went missing, and this was the one that we talked about that, within a matter of years, she lost her mother, she lost her grandmother, she lost her grandfather, and her aunt was her primary caretaker, and how they had to move around, and her life has just
Yeah.
been in complete upheaval.
I think she
So-
said she moved like 7 times by the time she was 12.
Yeah. She talked about how, please don't define my mother, as a sex worker. She talked about how she felt guilty because her mother was doing what she was doing because she was trying to provide a better life for me. These women, they just wanted the best for their children. They wanted the best for their family. And the guilt that these family members have to live with, it's
Absolutely.
just, it's awful. So she talked about, I am now the same age my mom was when she was pregnant with me. She said every milestone is marked by her absence. He took away birthdays, he took away celebrations, he took away all these milestones. But she did say that it also provided comfort because today provides a sense of accountability and justice. My mother mattered. More than a headline, more than a case study. My mother mattered. So,
It's true.
yeah. So,
So I wanted to ask you
Yes.
something. So now, when this case first started or whatever, and the way that the mentality of people is now, like, why do you think there is a shift that they care? Like when it first came out that they were.
when you say they care, are you talking about the public or are you
Yes.
talking about? Yeah, I think, this case has been so publicized that you'd be blind to and deaf, dumb, and blind not to hear about it, especially if you're living on Long Island. But, there are still people out there that don't care. I was posting on social media today and they're like, why are you at the courthouse? What's going on? And I'm like, how do you not know that, this is only the biggest case to hit Long Island in years and so it's sentencing day and You know, it's just, you know, that's the thing.
It's
you
a
know.
chain reaction. That's all because of how it started out, all of the coverage, and that it would have been so much more impactful on the area if it was actually discussed the way it should have been, humanized from the start.
Yes, I agree.
So why did they find that the humanization of it now, like after all these years? Like, you know, when it first started and they were just saying, hey, there were sex workers, and immediately.
Well, I
shut
think there are
down.
still people who talk about this case like that, sadly, you know. People just,
Their mentality.
yeah, the mentality, like I
So-called
said,
their
the
so-called
narr-
morals and values. It's like just because that's not your life doesn't mean that you can judge it.
Yeah. And they're treated like not even second class citizens, third, fourth class citizens, and it's disgusting. Like, you know, you're judging somebody by their profession. I mean, you know, I'm an educator, but I'm so much more than that. You know, my life encompasses so much more than just being oh, hi, here's Christine, a teacher. No, I'm Christine, you know, and that's the
They
thing.
could call me a janitor.
Yes. Yeah. You
I
know,
think I'm more than scrubbing toilets.
Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, Sandra Castilla, Karen Bagata. Say their names. They have names. They have identities. They are not sex workers. That is not how they should be identified. And I think if we learned anything today, if there's any justice in this world, anything positive that came out of today, it's that these women got their identities back, that their families took their identities back, and now they can be at peace. Yeah. I do want to talk a little bit, though, also about Ray Tierney had spoken to the court, and he really hit on some strong points today, and he talked about what a coward he was, Rex Heuermann, and all the things that he engaged in, and how it all fell apart, and how he's just he's just a piece of garbage, and how he has no empathy, no sympathy for any of these women, and he's just a cold, callous killer. And then Judge Mazzy. I couldn't not speak today about Judge Mazzy, who I absolutely love. I love that judge.
Yeah, he laced into him good.
Oh, he certainly did. Yes, and it was great being there in court and hearing him slam Rex Heuermann, and just kept going and going and going.
And you think about it,
Yes.
it's a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Just a couple of minutes of hitting this guy, but it's really, think about the damage that he did in order to bring him to that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, well, getting back to, Ray Tierney, he basically said, that all of this was the sport to him, that he was the hunter, and that, he was, taking their lives like it was a sport. Talking about the manifesto and how if you control the noise equals more playtime. It was all a sport to him.
Game.
The day of his arrest, he had burner phones on him dating back to 2007.
That sounds like kind of like it was a good luck charm that he was carrying that around. Like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He talked about how he was meticulous and planned out. All of this was meticulously planned out by a psychopath, and that he continues to control and manipulate his own family, from behind bars.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Because if you watch that
documentary,
documentary,
sure.
you hear it.
Yes.
Hey, dear, how are you?
Oh,
Like
please.
Insane.
still
It's so
trying to
sad.
charm himself in the house or whatever, and being the king, and just you could see it.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
his ex-wife. Let's talk about Asa. I'm sorry. You know what? Maybe she didn't know about these crimes, but she still lives in the same house.
And she says now she lives in the murder room.
She lives in the basement in the murder room because she wants to be closer to Rex.
that
because
does-
that was his childhood bedroom. Oh,
No,
my
it
God.
wasn't. It was his fucking
It was his
torture,
kill room.
his
Yes.
kill room
Ugh. Yeah.
that you weren't allowed in.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
How sad is that?
Like, you're that controlled that you're not allowed in the
Uh-huh.
basement of your own home because you're scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
I know dealing with a narcissist, like I've said it before, when a narcissist goes and fucks off and does whatever he does when he's not around you, or it could be a she, you don't really care what they're doing just as long as they're out of your immediate space. I mean, but come on, you really telling me that you had no idea that this dude was doing this? There had to be something in there that you couldn't see that he didn't want you to see.
I
Yeah.
wonder if she ever had like a weird vibe, that came up, or she saw something and, maybe thought like, oh, must be seeing things, or, a stain even. Like, I
Right,
don't know. You
anything.
can't, he
If he was
obviously
that-
wasn't perfect because he's
No,
caught.
right.
So, and gone, gone.
If I had to do a comparison, though, something that stands out in my mind, I look at BTK, Dennis Rader.
Same deal,
and,
right?
And I look at his wife, ex-wife, obviously now, and his daughter, Kerry Rawson. I look at how they behaved after everything came out about, her husband, her father. You can't even find his ex-wife. She's gone underground. She will not speak to the media. You won't be able to find her anywhere. I mean,
Asa hasn't done
yeah.
that really.
Yes, exactly. And I look at Kerry Rawson, like she's come out as an advocate. She's advocating for crime victims, I look at those two, they did it with such class.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then I look at Rex Schuman's family. I got Asa Eller up here living in the basement, still living in the same house where the murders occurred. And I'm not trying to attack them because I don't think that they knew about the crimes. It's my belief that they did not know about the crimes. But, your actions speak louder than words. What did you do after you found out about these crimes? You're still living in the same house?
How could you?
Yeah.
Even Victoria, I think, she's admitted that her dad is guilty. And my heart goes out to her. But get out of that house. I mean, the good thing is Kerry Rawson, if you watch the documentary, the last part of that documentary, I think it was part 4, is she was a liaison to that family in the sense that she was trying to help Victoria get through her grief. And,
Oh
and
yeah,
yes.
that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, I hope that they get the help that they need because and I will say this, they are victims too in this. But you know what? If you're knowledgeable about what happened, why I just can't wrap my head around it how you would stay in that house.
Do you think it
No
was-
amount of sage could convince.
Yeah,
Exactly.
she
Burning sage
saged
is
it.
not going to,
That's not going to cleanse
cure
your
what's
whole-
going on here.
Your mind
So,
and the memory.
Do you
Yeah.
think it was the right move for them not to be there today?
Absolutely.
Because it would have taken
Absolutely.
away
Their
from the focus?
attention.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. And I commend them for that. And that's a good point. Yes, I definitely commend them for
Because
not
he
being
must
there.
have felt like
Yes.
shit for that having them there.
Yes.
That is, yeah.
And it also, it is difficult for them. I mean, you saw how they were swarmed on April 8th.
Oh, man, it
during
was a mosh pit.
the guilt phase, where he's admitting guilt in court. I mean, and it's hard for them too. But
I'm surprised they even came to that.
you have, I know. I don't know that I agree with that, but it is what it is. But you have the power now. You have the knowledge. You know what your husband did. You know what your father did. What
Got
are you
some
gonna,
money, get the hell out of there.
What are you going to do now? Are you going to go into hiding? Are you going to go and rebuild your life? Are you going to do something positive for society? In the sense of, you made this documentary. How much of that money is going towards victims' advocacy?
None.
How much is going towards the victim family members? Granted, I can't tell them what to do with their money, but you know what? People are going to judge you by your actions. And if you're living in the same house where the murders take place, people are going to judge you for that.
This isn't
So,
the only documentary they're going to
Yeah.
do. They're going to do more.
So-
They're both going to do books.
yeah.
They have any day going forward to turn it around and, so to speak, to kind of bring some positive impact. And, hopefully they can give back to the,
Yes.
to the families.
Yeah. So just to try and wrap it up here, it came towards the end of, the session, the court session, and Michael J. Brown, Rex Human's lawyer, got up and he turned around to face the families and face the courtroom and address the families, and he apologized. He also he complimented the Suffolk County Police Department, Ray Tierney, the task force for the work that they did and working together, to get to this day. And then, the question that was hanging all day is Rex Human going to address the court? Is Rex Human going to speak? And when the judge asked him, Judge Mazzy, Rex, would you like to say anything? He said yes. I was like, ugh, I think all of us did an eye
Yeah.
roll. Like, you know, we were just like, what is he possibly going to say? What could he say that, you know?
But right off the bat, he
Yeah.
schooled him. He's like, stand up if you're going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
He's
he
like,
didn't
you stand
stand.
up. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that, right? He's like, you get up out of your seat and you stand up and you address this court. Yeah. He
It
scolded
almost
him.
reminded me
Yes.
of that Twisted Sister video when the Niedermeyer's yelling at the guy, look at me, stand up when you're
Yes,
talking to me.
yes.
You know, because he's just like an oaf, just
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
there.
But, you know, anybody who was anticipating that he was going to apologize to these victims, I mean, he basically said, I am, and for those of us that were sitting in court, it was very difficult for us to
Yeah,
hear what he
couldn't
was
hear
saying
it. I
because he
couldn't
wasn't
hear it.
speaking into a microphone.
No.
So we're all like sitting there at the edge of our seats trying to listen. And he said, I am responsible, something along these lines. It may not be exact. He said, I am responsible for all the words that were said in this courtroom today. But he said, my words will have no impact and no meaning. Anything I say at this point is useless, is basically what he said. And he had a point, because honestly, I don't think the victims' families really cared. They didn't want to hear from him. And
they don't want to see or hear
any
from him
sense
anymore.
of any sort of an apology he was going to give would have had no weight, because it was it was, you know, what is he apologizing for? He doesn't even mean it.
No,
So, yeah.
exactly.
At least he didn't turn it around and taunt them even more, because his presence was
Yes.
already
Got caught.
taunting them.
Yeah, yeah. The
That's
only
what the,
person he was sorry for was himself. That's
Yeah.
right. Sorry for getting caught. And I think that
The judge.
one of the judge, yes, the Judge Mazzy had said that. He addressed him. He said, I know you are sorry you're caught. You are sorry for your family. But he started to raise his voice and he said, are you sorry for what you did to these women? Are you? Are you sorry? You know, you're described in the media, you're described in this court as a large man. He said, but you're a small man. You're a coward. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
And those
If
were
you're
his
a man
last
at
words.
all.
Yeah, if you're a man at all, yes. And he basically said, get him out of here, which was met with cheers by people in the overflow rooms. And I think even people in the court were clapping.
They
I
were.
believe, yes.
At that point,
Yes.
when he started talking to him, I got up and I
Yeah.
walked out, because
Yes.
at that point I was just like, I
Yes.
need
Yeah.
to get out of here.
It was very
just-
draining, yeah.
It really was. It was.
But I was, you know what, I applaud Judge Mazzy, because he's a
Yeah.
class act from start to finish.
Ray Tierney too.
Yes.
You know,
And he put Rex Human in his place. And
deservingly so.
Yeah.
He made the narcissist small before the final exit. Get out of
Yes.
here. How much more New York can you get from that?
Right.
You know?
and at that point, Judge Mazzy sentenced him to, you know, life without parole, life in prison without parole. So for the charges that he received on April 8th.
I don't
So,
get
yes.
the whole admitting to murdering Karen Vergata, but not pleading guilty to it. Like, what,
I
don't
like,
get
what
that.
does that mean?
Now, I'm not an expert, obviously. I don't pretend to be an expert in crime, but, you know, but I think what happened was they perhaps didn't have enough DNA evidence or anything that could directly tie him to that murder. It was very flimsy, but they felt that the MO and the way she was found, as the other victims were found, there was some DNA, but they couldn't quite make it stick. I think that they presented that with him and said, did you, you know, commit this murder? And that may have been part of the plea deal.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so, yes. So, you know, we're going to wrap it up, but today was a very emotional day. But
It's not the end.
it's not the end now, and actually, now that he has been sentenced, his DNA goes into CODIS, so we'll see what happens with that, because that can definitely
Very
open up a
interesting.
lot of
Yeah.
doors
I
for a
think
lot
it
of
will.
different,
That's big.
you know, police now have access to his DNA, and any unsolved cases across the United States that are of similar nature, share similarities. He may be tied to those murders, and who knows? You know, some of these states that carry the death penalty, I don't know what the future holds in store for him, but
If he even gets
other
something.
than
Yeah.
the fact that he will never spend another day outside of prison walls, and I hope he rots in prison. But looking back on today, it was a very emotional day, but it was a day of justice, and it was not a day about Rex Human. Today was not about Rex Human at all. Today was about Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Sandra Castilla, and Karen Brigada. So when you look back on today, when you're watching the news today, please do me a favor and please keep them and their families in your thoughts and prayers. Today was a day of justice for them, but the pain will never go away. This is my True Crime Obsession checking out. Thank you, everyone, for following. And remember, it's always about the victims. Thank you, everyone. Bye.